Given name at birth is Nish Nubi Ikwe. I am second water woman. It is such an honor to open this day, to be with this unique group of women, and to see you in the audience and to feel that energy is very, very honorable for this old lady. The first thing I would like to do is do the acknowledgement of the land that we are standing on, Dakota, our brothers and sisters in out there. We have to acknowledge the beginning in order for us to move forward. So we want to say Chi Miigwech for letting us rest our feet and our spirits on your ancestors' gardens. Each morning when I awake, and it's very rare I say I because we live in the we, is because my spirit within this body. I rest and I come with my ancestors. They're in me and they're all around me as they are you. The new day is beginning with the women rising up, because that saying is when one of us fall, we all fall. Well, this is not that day. We are going to be fallen because we have gotten up. We have cleaned the scratches from our knees and the palms of our hands, and we're rising up with pride. So I was taught within the teachings of our ancestors, in order to move forward, we can never forget the past. So we have to put our spiritual being first. So this is what I would like to present to each one of you. If you can just take a moment and sit in silence, rest your eyes, think of your ancestors as I read forth the words of my ancestors. Chi Miigwech Manidu, thank you, Creator. We wash your hands in the sweet smoke so that we may become constructive and reach out to others in a good way. By continuing this practice, we bring forward the courage our ancestors left us. We bring the smoke over our heads and down our backs to lighten our troubles and bring clarity to our daily purpose. This is the honesty our ancestors entrusted us with. We smudge our eyes so we will see good things in all people and learn from them equally as well. For this, we bring respect forward in a good way. We smudge our mouths so that we may speak good things to all people. May we continue to choose our words carefully, for this is the truth we were to abide by. We smudge our ears so that we will listen carefully to all people, learn from what they say, and become someone they want to talk to, as this is the passage from the beginning to now, and it will lead us into the future, as this is the wisdom that should never be lost. We bring the smoke towards us to surround our hearts so that what has been damaged will heal. We promise to grow in a good way and to be strong as we carry our unconditional love forward. We wash our feet in the smoke so that we may walk a pathway full of purpose, compassion, balance, and kindness. As we carry what was taught to us throughout time, we will stand strong with our ancestors as we will bring forth the humility of all nations. Creator, Gitchimanidu, let the smoke wash over each of us, collect all our messages of gratitude, and gather our worries. Please let them rise up to the sky world. Please let our ancestors see that each of us on this moment and to the next moment, we will act with good intentions forward. Let each of us be thankful for the waters that nourish us, the fires that keep us, and the air that fills our blanket of a body with goodness, as we promise to keep our homelands of Mother Earth healthy. Miigwech, 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 Miigwech. May this day begin in a good way with good intentions. Chi Miigwech.
Thank you, Great-Grandmother Mary. We are so grateful to have you with us today. As we begin our day, let's take an additional moment of grounding as we watch a short video that reflects on the context of this moment, particularly what we have collectively experienced over the last year. We see the promise of possibility amid a year of pain and progress. We see our potential for a new day.
We, this people, on a small and lonely planet, traveling through casual space, past aloof stars, across the way of indifferent suns, to a destination where all signs tell us it is possible and imperative that we discover a brave and startling truth.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
On behalf of the staff, board, and partners of the Women's Foundation, welcome to the 2021 Equity Summit. Aneen Nijiwag. I'm Nevada Little Wolf, board chair of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota.
From North Minneapolis to Virginia, Minnesota, from Moorhead to Worthington, we are honored that you are here with us this morning in community as we begin our first virtual summit. A day in which we come together to harness the energy to realize a new day. As we check in today, we will have 2 polls going up. If you're watching this on a laptop, be sure to do the polling on your smartphone. Just follow the instructions on the screen and let us know where you're coming from and how you're entering the summit today. Now, for the second question, if you can give us a one-word check-in, how are you feeling entering the Equity Summit?
You know, one thread that connects both Shonda and I is that we're both not only trustees of the board here at the Women's Foundation, we're also former grantee partners. And as the executive director and founder of Rural American Indigenous Leadership, I helped us grow women's leadership in rural and Indigenous communities using the principles of Indigenous values to lift all rural women to meet their leadership goals.
And for me, I'm the former president and CEO of Pillsbury United Communities, and I had the joy of leading the organization during the creation of Sisterhood Boutique, a youth entrepreneurship program at the Brian Coyle Center in Cedar Riverside, and a cherished Women's Foundation partner. I'd like to reflect a bit on that program because it shows us the innovation and entrepreneurship that lives in all of our state's community when we listen, invest, and show up to build power with them. As for me, a new day in Minnesota isn't just a wish. A new day is necessary. We need a new day for each person living here. Each person to recognize that we are a place where quality of life is high and opportunities are abundant for everyone. A place where we do the necessary and transformational work to realize justice for Black lives, prosperity for all women and girls, and dignity for families across the state. I am glad to be here today to cultivate our collective energy for hope, change, and a path forward.
I know we can get there. I see a new day where rural women and girls can see any pathway possible, a place where Indigenous women, girls, and families are not only seen, but are safe and valued for the assets and the wisdom we have always carried with us on the land of our ancestors, this land of Minnesota Makoshe. I see a new day as a place where women and girls from every community see pathways to elected office, to lead in every sector, to see educators who look like them in their classrooms, and a place where little girls, boys, and gender-expansive youth know they are safe and valued and well. This is the energy we are calling into the space today at our 2021 Women's Foundation of Minnesota Summit.
Whether you've been to the summit before or if you're with us for the first time, we are an incredible community, even though we are virtual this year. We hope you find hope and inspiration by gathering together and grounding in the work that lies ahead.
First, to our elected and appointed officials today, thank you for joining us, Senator Mary Kunesh.
Before we get to our exciting program, I want to cover a few details that you will need for the day. On the platform we are on today, it includes all the details about the workshop you'll be attending later this morning, plus opportunities to chat, explore, and to find out more about the speakers you will hear from.
The hashtag for today is hashtag WFMN Equity Summit 21. As the morning unfolds, share anything you hear today that inspires you. Let's keep the energy up and vibrant. That's what we're here for today. And now, we're thrilled to be able to welcome our President and CEO of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, Gloria Perez, to share a State of the Women's Foundation address with us.
Thank you. Good job. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gloria Perez, President and CEO of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Nevada and Shonda, thank you for getting us started with your warm and heartfelt welcome. We know that some of you are observing the holy month of Ramadan, and we're thanking you for joining us amid this time of prayer, reflection, and fasting. I want to also thank the generous sponsors for this event. Best Buy, thank you for being our presenting sponsor once again. We will hear a few words from them later in the program. I want to recognize our colleagues on the board and staff for leading the foundation boldly, strategically, and with hope. They are awesome. And finally, we are so grateful for you. You are with us today because you are a partner in our work for gender and racial equity. So let me know in the chat how you're entering this space for our time together. As for me, this is my first summit as the foundation's president and CEO, and I am so energized. It is my hope that today we will support and lift one another so that we all feel part of this beloved community that is the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Today we are gathered to learn and connect and share and celebrate progress and to imagine and grow new possibilities as we create an ecosystem of change. So wherever you're joining us from, we hope you get what you need from our time here together today. May it personally fuel you and our collective journey toward social change. I'm thrilled to listen to our incredible speakers, reflect on our work, and harness the power we each hold to drive transformational change with women, girls, gender-expansive people, and families. You know, when I think about all that's happened since I joined the foundation early in 2020, it's clear to me that we are living in an extraordinary time. There have been moments in the last 15 months where the world, and in Minnesota specifically, we have been caused to pause, to feel immense grief and pain, and even to question the work that we do in the face of persistent violence and harm against the communities that we love and consider part of us. We find ourselves in a place where we have been before, angry at the dehumanization and killing of Black lives, heartbroken by the hate and violence on the rise against our Asian and Asian American community members, frustrated by the disrespect for trans rights, and incensed by the threat to our democracy. How can we build equity into our economy so that women and the most vulnerable workers can feel secure and support their families? We must dare to imagine a new day. Why? Because we always have, and we must persist. It is who we are. We believe in the possibility of a new day, and the pain of this moment is amidst us, and we can't let that stop us. We imagine because we see so many reasons to believe. We witness the courage and the direct action of our youth, included among our grantee partners, Young Women's Cabinet, and innovators in refusing to accept the status quo and unapologetically naming what is required for transformation. The Women's Foundation leads a policy, research, and community investment agenda that imagines a radical vision, a state of gender and racial equity in which all women and girls and gender-expansive people can thrive. We see imagination and action working hand in hand to infuse justice in economic opportunity and community safety. We must value whole community well-being as a foundation to create a world in which all women, girls, and families can thrive. We know our collective ability to thrive is linked. I think about what Fannie Lou Hamer said, that nobody's free until everybody's free. In this past year, the Women's Foundation has amplified this struggle, investing radically to remove barriers through community investments with impact and pushing for policy to change systems so that all Minnesotans can feel truly free and live with safety and pathways to prosperity. As we head into Mother's Day weekend, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence and reflection for all our mothers and guardians, our birth mothers and chosen mother figures, our caregivers and caretakers, our mothers throughout history and time. We call out for their life force, their love, and their care. We ask for a world that prizes healing and wholeness for all who give care and are cared for by others. Thank you for that. Nearly a year ago, we heard George Floyd may he rest in peace, call out for his mother. In 8 listening sessions this past March, we heard a theme about the central role of mothers and grandmothers, of wise elders, aunties and sisters, in supporting women and girls and families. When we talked to women and girls and gender-expansive folks through our listening sessions, we heard how grantee partners functioning as first responders in a crisis are working with women and girls as agents of change to actualize the power that exists in all our communities. In our listening session entitled "Not One More: Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women," a participant called for us to listen and learn from the matriarchal ways that create life, to honor the cultural practices of Indigenous Minnesotans and understand how our history of colonization and forced removal of Native culture has left a legacy of ancestral pain. Now, this year, we talked a lot about how pain is carried in the body over generations, and we learned about the essential powers of healing. In response, we have been investing in healing through our road to transformation, and its convenings have called us to reevaluate our practices, both internally and externally. We at the Women's Foundation have looked at our funding practices to remove unnecessary barriers in applications for our grantee partners. We have made over $4 million in community investments to partner organizations. We've converted all grant making to be made to general operations because we trust in the leadership of our grantee partners to use the funds as needed. We have increased our community investment to reflect the transformative role of healing, wellness, and capacity building to bolster a culture of abundance where all of our communities can be safe and well. In our listening session with older women, one participant challenged us to examine how we value older women in our workspaces and lives, as leaders of families, as wise elders, as caregivers in a pandemic, as protectors. I think of the poem, "Give the Police Department to the Grandmothers," by Minneapolis writer and activist Junauda Petrus-Nash, who wrote in the poem in 2015 after learning the police officer who killed Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, would never be charged with the crime. In the poem, she writes, "Grandma is the original warrior. They wear what they want and they say what they please." I love that. Well, we heard that when we listened to older women. Their testimony about their experiences and solutions could have been a day-long seminar on the power and insight of our elders. It was real talk, and we all need that. We also listened to girls ages 12 to 18 from across Minnesota. We heard them support one another as they shared their vision for a safe world at the intersection of identities. Hearing from youth who identify as LGBTQ across various racial identities, geography, and disabilities, I was inspired by their hope and their courage to shape a more just future. Listening to rural women, we heard about the divides they feel between urban and rural parts of the state, how we often miss the spectrum of values and diversity they bring to our state, how the pandemic forced one family's small farm to diversify and question whether they could go on. For working Latinas in greater Minnesota who are immigrants, they were able to share with us in their native language the ways in which they didn't feel seen or heard. Working mothers in Minnesota are working multiple jobs, juggling schedules, making sacrifices for their kids, but not always receiving benefits or health care, and still are often unable to afford childcare. How can we do better for these women and girls? Don't we all want a world where we are all safe, protected, and free? This year has called us to ask, how can we, as the first statewide women's foundation in the country, radically invest in an infrastructure of gender and racial equity, using our levers of research, community investment, and policy? Listening has influenced our practice since our inception, and we say that listening is a form of action. As you've seen in the report that came in your welcome kit and is available on this platform, we use listening to deepen our understanding so that we can continue to strategically reduce or eliminate the challenges, barriers, and obstacles they face. Our research investment builds upon our Status of Women and Girls in Minnesota report released last fall to center the real stories and vision of communities most impacted by the disparities we see in the data. But we know that the data is only one piece of the story. Once you hear someone's truth, you never forget it. Black mothers and caregivers, Native women and women of color in our listening sessions shared the stark reality that the injustices they face in our state are matters of life and death. We see two systems of justice: policing, education, housing, and healthcare, of safety, dignity, life, and death. The status quo cannot persist. We can never go back to a normal that has never worked for most of us. As Maya Angelou has told us, if you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. So let's forget about normal. Let's catalyze a future that is amazing, that is anti-racist, and that is centered in care for one another. This year has shown us that we must recommit to being amazing, to being courageous. We must remake our state with equity at its core. We must imagine and press onward to a world where all women, girls, and families thrive. And lastly, with women leaving the workforce in droves in response to the need for childcare and the collapse of jobs in sectors typically held by women, we are reminded that women's economic security is key to family well-being and the overall economic security of the state. Since our vital role in passing the 2014 Women's Economic Security Act, WESA, which we celebrate on its 5th anniversary on Mother's Day, we have seen the ways in which that package of laws expands women's and mothers' wages, protections, and accommodations in the workplace. Now, we can do our legislation better by ensuring that the laws we pass center the experiences of women in the fields where their work is less stable, less protected, less assured of benefits. We must make our policies seize the economic opportunity and potential of all women and families pushed to the margins. Now, we know that we cannot wait for change. We must relentlessly drive it. We will use our levers of community investments, research, policy advocacy, narrative-shifting communications, convenings, and cross-sector partnerships to drive systems change across sectors. As we learn, grow, and adapt, we need to reassess how we do business. This is the challenge we hear from you, our partners. We know a new day is possible. The resources exist. In the last year, we have seen our city feed and care for people on the front lines rising up for justice. We have the means, the collective energy, the wealth, and the capacity to make justice real. We have the will, and it will take all of us, and we will get there together. As we imagine a new day, we will share power with those who have long been leading social change and justice movements. This change will require something from all of us. How do we realize a new day? How can we manifest equity so that all women, girls, gender-expansive people, and families are well? How can we listen to our mothers and be agents of care for our communities with love and intention and wisdom for the old ways as we also listen to the youth who often show us the way? We can be radical in imagining a new way forward. So adelante, let's get going. I hope you are looking forward to our powerful keynote speaker, the nationally renowned Latasha Brown. Following their conversation, we will enjoy a grounding performance by the artist Shay Cage. So get grounded, get comfortable, and get ready for our powerful time together. And now, I'd like to welcome Udo, a WFMN innovator, a powerhouse of positive energy, and a student advocate who is passionate about addressing social justice issues that are impacting our communities.
Thank you, Gloria. I am so happy to be here with you. My name is Yudu. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I am a WFMN innovator, a student at Hamlin, a civic engagement advocate, and the proud daughter of immigrants from Vietnam, working to do my part to realize a new day through political advocacy and increasing representation across Minnesota. Before I introduce our esteemed speaker today, I want to know what a new day means to you. Take a photo, share a piece of art, or simply a sentence on what you want in a new day using our hashtag WFMN Equity Summit 21 on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. So in my work as an innovator, I've been working towards a new day by connecting in community with elected officials, women, transgender women, gender-expansive individuals, and young people interested in advocating for their rural communities. I come to the honor of introducing our keynote speaker today out of a personal passion for doing my work to increase representation in politics and organizing in my community to create meaningful change. As a young Asian woman in Minnesota, I have been active in the movement for justice. Recently, I've been speaking out even more about the harmful way we position traumatic events, from violence to acts of hate and harassment as isolated incidents of good systems gone wrong. I've been advocating that instead, we must acknowledge that systems were designed to be racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, and more. And we acknowledge that truth. We can work together to create a future that is just, equitable, and safe for ourselves, our families, and our communities. Our featured speaker today, Ms. Latasha Brown, leads at the intersection of social justice, political empowerment, human development, and the cultural arts. Simply put, she's a visionary and a champion for justice. As co-founder of Black Voters Matter, she has been power building with Black communities for historical voter turnout in the South. Latasha was instrumental in the recent election victories in Georgia, powered by Black women, women of color, and youth working on the ground to create a new day where voting rights are upheld and voices that have been pushed to the margins are centered, not only to benefit the communities in proximity, but the nation as a whole. Latasha is also the leader of the Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium and is currently fundraising $100 million to build the power of Southern Black girls and women in the U.S. Recognizing that her work is not rooted in strengthening political systems, governments, or institutions, but in the advancement of people. Latasha Brown knows that when women organize, we win. When people organized, organized people win. And when I hear Latasha speak, and I see the results of her leadership and the world that's being created in response to activism, hard work, door knocking, and marching, my hope for a new day of justice, equity, dignity, and prosperity is reignited. Please help me welcome Latasha Brown.
Well, the first thing I did right was the day I started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, hold on. Good morning. I'm very, very excited about being here today. I'm very excited about this conversation. You know, more than anything, I'm super excited about what era that we're living in right now, the moment that we're in. And so what I want to do is, just to get us started on today, I want to ask all of you that are watching this right now, if you could just take a moment and close your eyes. I want you to get centered, get in a comfortable position, clear your mind. And I have two questions to ask you. My question to you is, what would America look like without sexism and racism? My second question to you is, what can you do about it? What is being called of you in this moment to bring that vision into being? Now, I don't know where you all are. I don't know if you were able to see anything or if you were able to imagine an America without racism and sexism. But what I will tell you is that there is nothing, and I often talk about this, there's nothing that has been brought into the physical world that was not first envisioned. You can't find, you can't find a cup, anything that you see that exists in the physical world came out of someone's vision. And so if we are to create a new world, and a new world is absolutely possible, and if we are actually going to stand on the dawn of a new day and really be able to utilize this new era that we're in right now, it is going to require us, ladies, it is going to require us being visionaries. And so what I want to do in the next couple of minutes, I just want to share what I often talk about as the V strategy. I literally believe that in this moment, what is being called of us as women of the world is that we are literally to stand in a space of our power unapologetically, and not just stand in a space that we're making things better for ourselves and our colleagues, but that fundamentally, I believe that we are the transformative leaders that the world has been waiting on. That fundamentally, as those of us, and we're in a long history of women who have always risen to the top, who've always done the work. But I also think that they have also created a space so that more of us can engage, that more of us can actually use our gifts and to really be able to bring about the vision that we see. And so with this V strategy, there are 4 pieces, which I call them kind of 4 pillars of it, that I just want to share with you briefly. The first one is, it goes back to my original question. It's around vision. What is your vision for the world? What is your vision for Minnesota? How can you create a Minnesota and where women and girls feel respected, valued, and honored? That all human beings feel respected, valued, and honored. If that is to be, then ladies, we will make it be so. We will create that, and we will create that out of our visions. And that's why it's important that we're asking ourselves that question. What will Minnesota look like without racism and sexism? And that should be our goal. We have to start with the end in mind, that fundamentally what we're looking at is not just transactions, not transactional change, where, okay, there's a couple of policies and let's just open up these spaces to create more opportunity for women. No, what we want to do is radically reimagine every single system in this country, radically reimagine institutions, radically reimagine all the possibilities that exist when people are able to stand firmly in their power. Think of what the world could be when women are able to unleash and stand in the space of our power to create and utilize our gifts, unencumbered of sexism, unencumbered of sexual harassment, unencumbered of all of those elements of oppression that literally seek to try to marginalize us based on gender. But if we are to actually create that world, that I am clear that women will be at the helm of that. So the first pillar that I think that we're being asked in this moment is around our vision. So ladies, it doesn't matter if you're from a child, if you're from 7 years old or less, all the way up to 130, wherever you fall on that spectrum, you had the ability and the right to create a vision of the world that you want to see, a vision for the world that you deserve and those around you. And so part of what it's going to require, though, it is going to require you spending time with that question to literally get clarity around your vision, literally be able to see through all that is happening right now so that you are connecting your vision with the visions of others, so that as we're moving forward, we are creating what is not only a new day, but a new reality, so that our new days, that each new day, right, creates a whole nother trough of possibilities and power. The second pillar that I want to just share real quickly is not only do we have to have vision, and women, we have to see, and ladies and girls, we have to see ourselves as visionaries because the world needs us, right? And there is a particular, just even as a visionary, there's a particular gift that I think women bring in terms of our insight, our perspective, our intuition, that those are not things that we should shy away from. That's what we should lean into. That is what makes us who we are, right? That is what grounds us. That's what allows us to contribute in so many ways to our families as mothers and daughters and grandmothers. That's what allows us to literally center our love in a space that is nurturing and protective and caring. The second thing is I think it's really important for us to really recognize the power of our voice, that it is important that as women, as girls, that our voices matter, that literally shaping the narrative actually helps shape and create the different kind of landscape for us to rise up. It is important that we are also using our authentic voice. And literally in part of creating that authentic voice is being able to deepen our listening to each other, being able to deepen our listening to our community, so that when we're speaking, we're not speaking from a space of an opinion because we saw it on Twitter or Facebook, but that we're speaking in a way that's been informed by those around us, that's been informed by our experience, that's been informed by our passion, our love for humanity. You know, and the third pillar that I would like to raise is really centered around victory. Well, what I mean by victory, that fundamentally we have gotten to a place in this country that we see victory as like a football game. Like in some ways, like athletics, you either win or you either lose. You're either on the red team or the blue team. You're on this team or this team. No, there is a possibility. There's a whole nother paradigm shift that I think we have to create around victory, around what is a win-win? How can we create a victory in a way and think about victory in a way that all can actually benefit when we're moving forward, that whatever decisions we're making in policy, whatever decisions we're making in our institutions, we can create an equitable and just solution in a way that reduces or eliminates the harm that happens to communities, particularly communities that are most vulnerable. And we do that by centering those communities that are most vulnerable. If we take care of those communities that are most vulnerable, we all will benefit. All boats will be lifted. And then the fourth and the final pillar that I'll raise is really centered around, that I think carries and holds all of this, is really around the V, which I call values. What do we believe? What do we really value? I think that when we're talking about even concepts from democracy, when we're talking about concepts around, how do we actually bring equity and inclusion, what has to be centered in our values is our love for humanity. And so fundamentally, all of this work that we are doing, all of our visions have to be rooted in something that really is rooted in the values of the love for humanity. So those 4 V's that I think women that we're being called for in this moment is really to have a vision. You are visionaries, that it is your vision that will actually get us to the world that we all seek, the world that we all deserve. It is your voice that will speak truth to power. Your voice will literally be able to speak around those who have been marginalized, really be able to share perspectives that we all need to hear as we're moving forward in the future. Victory, that we will redefine what a victory looks like, that we can actually create a space. And we know, and women have done it all the time, where we actually learn, we should create a victory that is rooted in the values of sharing power, of sharing resources, of literally having nurturing environments, that in fact, that I don't have to, in order for me to win, it doesn't have to be at the expense of you losing. That in order for me to be happy, it doesn't have to be at the success, at the expense of me putting you in pain. But fundamentally, we actually can shift the paradigm of victory. And then the fourth and the final thing is, how do we root in terms of our values? That fundamentally, what is important, that what we know is that strong oak trees are not literally standing there because of their branches. It is their roots that actually ground them. Their roots are literally what gives nurturing to the rest of the tree. And that's how we have to see our values. The value that humanity matters, the value that is beyond gender, the value that supersedes this idea of race or gender or even what your geographic origin, that fundamentally as a human being, that you have value. And we women, as those visionaries and those leaders, that we can actually bring that forth and literally recreate and create a new world, because a new world is possible. A new nation is possible. That's why it's important for us to radically reimagine what are the possibilities that exist when people are able to stand in the fullness of their power. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I'm super excited about engaging in this conversation in the fireside chat so that we can actually go a little bit deeper and talk about what are the possibilities that exist when women use our power.
Latasha.
Greetings.
Hi, that was so powerful. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I am so happy to be here. I really am. I'm really happy to be a part of this conversation. I love the work that you all do at the Minnesota Women's Foundation. I really think that this is a moment, a conversation that is really timely, because I do believe that we're in a special era. And I think the leadership and the voices and the vision and the work of women is going to make a difference of how we move forward in the future.
Absolutely. And you know what? I love the energy that you're bringing. Yes, bring that Southern spirit to Minnesota. We need it. I've always believed in the possibilities of a new day. And you alluded to it, but when we say a new day, it's about our ability to imagine, to vision, as you've stated, to act, to keep moving forward. And we do that by changing systems. We do that by changing narratives and laws. And in following your work in the hardest times, Latasha, I noticed this concept of keep on moving, keep creating a new day as a theme in your work. You've referenced often one of my favorite verses, weeping may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Or the songs that you sing, amen, about waking up in the morning with freedom on your mind. And as we're thinking about our community right here in Minnesota, I want to know, what does the struggle of realizing a new day mean to you?
I think I want to start with the framework of oftentimes what we think is we think that the big change is going to happen when we change the systems outside of ourselves. I actually think that the core change actually starts with us. I think that fundamentally what sexism has done, as oppression has done, all those different forms of oppression is literally has been designed in a way to help to break the human spirit, to actually make women and girls and people who are in communities that have been marginalized, that are dealing with poverty, that are dealing with issues from police brutality, that are dealing with issues related to racism, that fundamentally the biggest offense has been in breaking of the human spirit, or even tying the human spirit or marginalizing the power of the human spirit. That I think the greatest sin is really creating the circumstances, and when people don't feel a sense of powerlessness, creating the circumstances where people don't really have what they need to take care of their basic needs, so that fundamentally that they feel like they don't have a voice, that they don't have power. So I think that the key thing when we're talking about starting a new day, that the change starts with us. And what do I mean by that? I want women, if there's nothing else that anybody remembers, anything else I say today, I want women and girls that are looking at this to know that you are your circumstances. You are above your circumstances. It does not matter where you are, what community you're in, that you matter. You don't just matter because you did this degree, or you did this work, or you did this piece, that your very life has value. And because your life has value, you are literally owed a space around dignity and respect. And so there's oftentimes what we have to really recognize and get centered in is that our very presence warrants, like literally it warrants that there is of my humanity. And so what I want the young women that are watching this to really understand is that your value is not just based on your accomplishments. Your value is rooted in your humanity. And so if nothing else, if we're actually tapping into the power of our humanity, when we tap into the power of our humanity, we are unstoppable. When we literally understand how much power we have, then when we fully understand that women are actually the majority of people in this country, and that we have power, that we have value, guess what? Every single system is going to have to change, right? Because we will be changing. That our perception of who we are, our perception of our contribution, our perception of literally how systems should be designed to honor and respect us, they will change. And so I think there's a number of things. If I were to think like 3 buckets of what I think in terms of creating a new day, the first thing in terms of creating a new day is really recognize that we're co-creating what that day looks like. That every day we should get up and think about what needs to be done and what's our vision of what it is we want to see. The second thing I think when we're talking about creating a new day is understanding that we're not alone. We're not by ourselves. And that is really important, why I think that everybody should have some kind of community, some organizational home, that to start, if you're young women that are watching this right now, get involved with some organization, whether it's at your church, whether it's your local community, where it's a group of your friends that want to start something. That part of our power, and women have always recognized that, which is, I think, has been the power of the sisterhood, is that when we work collectively, we're able to leverage our personal power as well with the personal power of others. And so I think it's really important that we literally find what our sense of community that we're plugging in with, that we can actually build institution, we can build our thoughts, our visions together, collectively together. And I think the third thing is, I think we have to revisit, this whole notion around our love for humanity, that nothing can trump this notion of the love of humanity. What does that mean? If we didn't see anything else with COVID-19, COVID-19 taught us and showed us how selfish we are as a culture in the country. Part of people were actually livid that they would actually have to wear masks. Well, who wants to wear masks? I don't want to wear masks wearing masks, they're not comfortable, they're not cute, and then I can't wear my cute lipstick, right? But the bottom line is, as much as I want to wear my cute lipstick, as much as I don't like masks, what has more value to me is a human life. And so if I'm wearing a mask actually helps protect not only my life, but the lives of others, what's so hard or so bad about that? And so I think the third piece is we actually have to engage in a conversation of a humanity around how are we going to reclaim our humanity, that there is nothing that we are literally creating in this culture that should not center the value of human life and human beings.
Yes, you make me want to get up, clap, give you all of the praises, because this especially resonates being here, right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota. We have been at the center of social justice and social change, especially over the last year. And while Minnesota has been visible because of the murder of George Floyd, may he rest in peace, we've also been seeing you all and how you organize in the South, right? So I want to talk about the case of the South. And particularly in conversation of realizing a democracy that represents the interest and dignity of all people, as you just said. This work has been called the Rise of the New South, but we know this work is not new. So while you, Latasha, and folks like Stacey Abrams and others are seen and visible now, we know that Black women and women of color have been organizing, and this work that you're leading is off of a legacy. So as Minnesota continues our work of creating a new day in Minnesota, share with me, after we have a vision, right? After we realize our voice, after we're organized, and after we identify our values, what does it take to sustain a movement?
I think part of it is twofold. I think you have to do the work, the short-term work in terms of building the movement, but you also actually have to do the transformative work while you're doing that. And I'm raising this because I don't want to, as I'm talking about vision, I'm not just saying vision around, okay, we have an idea. We have to literally be bold and courageous enough to know that there are things that we have to do in this moment, yes, but that if we want a new outcome, we're going to have to create change, that we're going to not have to be afraid to do new things, to ask for new institutions, new ways of being. And so that's going to require us not just fighting for what we see now, right? But we're also going to have to be organizing around what are those things that we want to see different. And so I think there's a number of things that we've done at Black Voters Matter. I think one, even just shifting the paradigm around who is in the center when we're talking about voting. There are a lot of people that care about Black votes, but didn't care about Black voters. And so as an organization, what we decided is that what we wanted to do is to shift the entire narrative around, one, who Southern Black voters were, that what our power, oftentimes we would hear on TV, it was like, oh, they're in the South, they're in these red states, it's voter suppression, they don't have any power. And so that was a particular kind of narrative. That narrative actually can make people feel more depressed. That narrative actually make people feel less powerful, right? Or more powerless, right? And so for us, we needed to shift that narrative and say, listen, in spite of the voter suppression, and in spite of the structural racism, we have power. We have power that actually was bred in us, in our humanity, in our very being, in our presence, in our spirit. And we're going to lean into that. We're not going to shy away from that. And so what we do is the work that we're doing is literally going to transform, not only transform externally, but transform how we see ourselves, how we think about our work, how we think about ourselves. I think part of being able to do that is to recognize that we're actually doing two things at the same time. We're actually flying the plane or flying an old plane and building a new one. And so part of what we do as an organization is do the work that we're actually being able to engage people in the political process now. But we changed a couple of things. Instead of the focus being around political candidates or political parties, we actually center the people. We say this isn't about their power. This isn't about what they want. This is really about what you want. And literally voting in the process actually gives you an opportunity and a voice to do that. But we're also, the second thing that we do, I think, is as a particular kind of approach, is that we're honest with folks. That literally we really tell them that voting is not the panacea. It's not going to solve all of the issues, right? That literally voting is a tool and a very powerful tool, but it also has limitations. And so while we are voting, we also have to do the work that we're envisioning and that we're building new institutions and we're expanding our capacity. And so while we're having that conversation with them around the things that we have to do now, we're always in a dual conversation that we're talking about. This is what we have to do now, but we're starting with the end in mind. The end in mind is how do we create systems, institutions, a nation in which we are honored and respected and lifted. There is nothing that can actually stop us from doing that if we're really centered in our vision, if we're centered in our work. And so that's part of what we do. The other thing that I think is really important about what we have done, and I think this is really important around for the foundation, is that we also realize that this work takes resources. And so as an organization, we decided we are Black Voters Matter Fund, that what we knew that if we were actually going to build a movement, you have to support the grassroots organizations, that you have to strengthen the capacity of what happens on the ground. And so the focus of our work has always been centered in, like, literally, how do we strengthen the capacity of grassroots folks, those folks who are sitting on the front lines, who are doing this work day in and day out, those folks that regardless of what circumstances or what resources they have, those are the people that constantly show up. And so that's what we believe, that part of where the transformational change is going to happen is strengthening those groups that are on the ground that are doing grassroots work. Now, the young people that are listening to this conversation, I mean, wondering, it was like, well, I don't have an organization, or, what is it that I can do to help? You are the futurists. You have to think of yourself as futurists, ladies. You have to think of yourselves as the founders of a new America. What would, as in that vision that I raised, what would America look like without racism and sexism? What would Minnesota look like? What are the possibilities that exist? And we have to see that with that end goal in mind and literally start collectively working on creating that vision so that people can actually see what is possible and start moving towards that. So I think it's really important that we're resourcing the work, that we're connecting and building power by really collectively being engaged in conversation together. But I think the third and the really important piece really is centered around how are we actually pushing ourselves to envision something different so that our work is not constantly just responding to what is.
Mm-hmm. So I hear you talking about vision, check. Okay, I'm all with you. I hear you talking about power. Absolutely. Power is and will always be in the organized masses. But now I also want to bring in courage. I don't want to over-glamorize what it means to be in the movement. It takes real courage. And when I think about our community here in Minnesota, I think about the courage that was demonstrated by girls like Darnella Frazier, stepping into a very scary moment and utilizing the tools in front of her for Minnesota to reach a historical verdict. I think about the courage of systems and institutions changing or abolishing systems we thought to be indefinite, or the courage of individuals and institutions and organizations implementing new policies or having conversations on courageous topics that aren't always as comfortable. And finally, I think about the courage that it takes to keep going. And so, Latasha, my question to you is, what comes to your mind as you think about the place that courage has in this conversation and in our ability to realize a new day?
You know, there's a couple of things. The first thing, and you're absolutely right, you know, there's so many women, and just as the young women that you mentioned have been so courageous on leading this fight. But what's so interesting is, let me tell you what is interesting that is required in courage. Courage is not, doesn't mean that you don't have any fear. Courage is actually the opposite. You know, courage is not required when you don't have any fear. Right? Like when you're not fearful of anything, you don't need courage to do it. You can just do it. Like, you know, and so I say that because part of the element of courage is those women or those girls who are literally, in spite of the circumstances, in spite of the barriers, that they actually, that barrier, it is that thing, courage is that thing that allows them to move and operate in their power in spite of the thing. Oftentimes because of the thing, that is that very thing that is a catalyzing element around that creates the courage. And so I say that to the young women that are out there, that your barriers actually can feed into and catalyze your courageousness. You know, the things that actually are fearful, those things that literally people are saying that you can't do, that is when you pull and you utilize, and it actually shapes literally the foundation of the development of your courage. That part of what I think we have to really think about is that communities of color, we've seen so many stories of girls and communities of color and those who have been marginalized, to actually these stories of courage, because their circumstances, they have used those barriers that were used to actually suppress them or to oppress them. They've used those barriers to catalyze the formation and development of their courage. And so I think it's a couple of things that we're in this moment right now. You know, one of the part of cultivating courage is getting in a space that we have clarity, that you have clarity what it is that your values are. As I talked about that V strategy around the vision and using your voice and the victory, but the most important things around what's your values, what is it that you really believe? What is it that you really know in your heart is just the right thing to do? What is it that you know that should be happening in the world? That is where your values are rooted. And oftentimes when you're in a space or being called for a moment that you have to utilize your courage, you may not have anything else but just your values to lean into, that I believe that people should not be hurt. And even though I am fearful in this moment, even in this moment, I may not know what to do. Even in this moment, I don't have the resources I think that I need to fight it. I am going to speak out. I am going to say something because my value is that this human life matters. And so that's what we see. Those that use courage, they actually tap into whatever that value that centers them around, whether it's humanity, whether it's love, whether it's family, whether it's whatever those things are. And so I think it's important that the young women that are watching this, that actually recognize that you have courage. As a human being, we're all born with a speck of courage. How it is developed is the circumstances that literally you allow yourself. I think there's a couple of things. One, having clarity around what it is that you believe, though a clarity around your values. I think the second thing is literally being able to build up that muscle of really being able to recognize your fears, but knowing that you have power to really overcome your fears. Does not mean the fear is gone. Doesn't mean that the fear is going to leave. Right. But what it does mean, what courage does, courage allows you to get that extra pep in your step so that you can jump over the hurdle. You still see the hurdle, but you can jump over the hurdle. Right. And sometimes you recognize that the hurdle that you thought wasn't quite as big as you thought it was. Right. Right. But it may take that extra measure of courage to really be able to do that.
Okay. So your courage is connected to your vision, is connected to your power and your values. That's the word. So Latasha, we have to wrap up. I want to talk to you all day, but we have to wrap up. What's the last word you want to leave us with? What a last word that you want to leave Minnesota with? And I also want to say, while the summit is 1/3 youth, and we're absolutely talking to them, it's also women, men, and gender expansive people of all ages watching. So what is a word you want to leave us with today?
The word that I want to leave us with is we are on the edge of a new day. We're in that new day. And so we've been given a gift. We literally have a choice. We have a choice to go down the road of peril, right, and ignore the opportunities that exist right now, or we have the choice of going down the road that is full of possibilities and promise. Imagine that when every human being is able to actually utilize a respected and valued, you don't have to like them, but they're respected and valued and able to utilize their gifts. What would the world look like? What would the world look like if all women and girls in the state of Minnesota were able to operate in their gifts and their talents unencumbered by sexism or racism or any of those forms of homophobia, those forms of oppression that seek to actually make us feel that we're powerless? That fundamentally, we, in this moment, you are being called. In this moment, you have the opportunity to shape how we go forward. In this moment, you have the opportunity to co-create not only a new day, but a new nation, a new world, a new universe. And yes, I said universe. I believe that the real transformation will start with us. And I think it's all centered in this notion that's very simple. It's in the notion of love, that we start, if our beginning and our endpoint all starts with for the love of humanity, if we just use that as a frame, everything decision that we make will actually have a different kind of character. It will have a different kind of shaping. So I just want to say thank you to all of those that show up day in and day out courageously. Like you show up in your life courageously. You show up in your families, in your jobs, in your spaces, in the boardrooms. We thank you. And yes, you are making a difference because mighty rivers are filled drop by drop. But really recognize that this is a moment, that we are in an era that I do believe that in a moment of what we see great uncertainty and pain, there's often the greatest opportunity to recreate and reimagine. So let's reimagine what is possible by using our radical reimagination to really create the world that we all deserve and that we'll create together, that is centered in the issue of love and on the foundation of humanity.
Latasha, did you wake up this morning with your mind on freedom?
Woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. Whoa, I woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. Whoa, I woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Many of us have awakened this morning with our mind on freedom. Yes. Let's stay there and let's create the new day we deserve, ladies.
Oh, thank you so much, Latasha. Sending you all of our love, and we hope to have you in person back in Minnesota again. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll just have to say hi to my Purple family because I love Minnesota.
Yes.
For my Prince folks.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. So I'm talking to you all who've tuned in to the words, the wisdom that Latasha just dropped for all of us. She kept saying young women. It is absolutely about young women and young people, but it's also about all of us right here in this community tuning in today. So if you're moved, take a moment, utilize the chat or social media. You know our hashtag. We're really trying to engage you. Tell us what resonated with you. She gave us a framework: vision, voice, values, victory. She gave us a 3-step on how we could go from vision to action. I want to hear what's resonating with you as you think about your role to realize a new day. Then I would like to introduce the next part of our program. It is my pleasure to welcome Patricia Harris, Social Media Impact Manager from our presenting sponsor, Best Buy, to share a few words. Following Patricia's remarks, we're in for a treat for the renowned and award-winning artist, Shay Cage, who is here with us today. She curated a special performance just for the Women's Foundation of Minnesota and our community. So stay where you are, keep tuning in, and I'll see you shortly.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia with Best Buy, and I work on Best Buy's social impact team. It's an honor to be able to present today for an organization determined to invest in innovation and change to improve gender and racial equality. Thank you to the Women's Foundation of Minnesota for continually driving the conversation around these important topics. Best Buy is proud to be the leading sponsor of the summit for the past 4 years, and we truly believe in the collective power across organizations to create opportunity, safety, and leadership for young people to explore and discover what is possible. It's important that we all continue to intensify our focus on disinvested populations with programs and partnerships with BIPOC-serving organizations to create opportunities so youth can learn new skills, nurture positive adult and peer relationships, and discover future careers. Many teens have big dreams, and we've made it our mission over the years to help make those dreams a reality by providing technology, opportunity, and mentorship to teens in our local communities, especially in our Best Buy home state of Minnesota. It's essential that we continue to invest in young women and gender-expansive people. According to a report by the National Science Foundation, women make up 29% of all science and engineering occupation, with women of color making up a mere 13%. We need to strengthen economic opportunities for girls and women, and that is so apparent in this moment. And it's our obligation to transform the current landscape and create more opportunities for everyone to thrive and be represented. Last June, Best Buy CEO Corey Berry said we will do better as a company and commit further to making systemic, permanent changes that address social injustices to improve our communities and our company. And in December, Best Buy announced we are committing more than $44 million to diversity, inclusion, and community efforts. Our 5-year plan focuses on hiring BIPOC and women employees, along with creating more opportunities for post-secondary support for youth and emerging talent. Our big goals include filling 1 out of 3 new non-hourly corporate positions with BIPOC employees. Additionally, 1 out of 3 new non-hourly field roles will be filled by women. Fostering inclusion among all employee groups to create parity in retention rates, including transforming our leadership ranks to be more in line with our board of directors. Reaching 30,000 teens annually from disinvested communities across the nation, including building a network of at least 100 Best Buy Teen Tech Centers to teach skills and build a talent pipeline for a modern economy. And finally, we are continuing to expand opportunities for BIPOC teens in our home market of the Twin Cities by investing in more local teen tech centers, creating a scholarship fund specifically for Twin Cities-based teens. While getting women in the door is important, continued support and development are crucial to retention and growth. At Best Buy, we continually advocate that mentorship is a critical way for our members of our community to positively impact job satisfaction, encourage leadership opportunities, and promote personal growth. And we are inspired and motivated to be able to work with other organizations inspired to continue this mission. This mission is especially important to me because I believe in lift while climbing on my journey. Having a career that works towards delivering impact and address injustices is my life's work. Lastly, being an excellent role model for my daughters, Adriana and Iyana, is my highest priority, that they grow up in a more equitable and just society for women and girls. This is only just the beginning, and the Best Buy team is thrilled to be a part of it. Now I am happy to announce one of the leading artists of her generation, a change maker by the Minnesota Women's Press, an Artist of the Year. Shay Cage moves across artistic disciplines as an actor, curator, writer, speaker, and spoken word artist. Please welcome her as she performs a special piece of art for our time together.
Thank you, Patricia. Hey, everybody. You're seeing me a little bit earlier than I said I would come back up. So Shay is having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we're going to give it a beat. I want you to grab some water and just stay tuned as we play some music. By the way, our playlist is available if you want to jam after the summit. Grab some water and stay tuned. Shay will come real soon.
I'm really grateful to be here holding space for and with you all. My name is Lauren Ash. I'm the founder and executive director of Black Girl in Ohm, which is so excited to be formalizing roots here in the Longfellow community. But we've been a global organization that exists to hold space for Black women on their healing journeys all around the world for about 7 years now. With that being said, it's my pleasure to guide all of you in a grounding meditation. So I encourage you to use the next 30 seconds or so to find your comfortable position. This might be like me, maybe seated on a pillow that you might even just grab from your couch. It might be laying down on the couch. If you're in a chair, that's totally fine too. Anything that feels supportive for your body, anything where you can have your spine tall and long, again, whether that's laying down or seated upright, it's all right. It's all divine. So you're also welcome to use the back of a wall or a chair to keep yourself seated upright. With that being said, find your comfortable seat and then find stillness. Take a deep, full breath in through your nose, filling your lungs up with air. And then sigh the breath out. Beautiful. You can still keep your eyes open just for another moment. Your next breath in, deeper than the last. Lengthen your spine and the crown of your head, and then sigh the breath out. Allowing it to be audible to really see that relationship between your physical body and the breath. Another deep, full breath in through your nose. Feel how your heart is lifted, you're more expanded. Relax those shoulders. And then exhale. Now, if it feels comfortable for you, I invite you to close your eyes. You're also welcome to keep them soft, perhaps gazing at a space out in front of you that's unmoving. And just sink back into a normal breath. Noticing that gentle rise and fall of the belly with every inhale and every exhale. Noticing too the ebb and flow of the heart space. At every time a breath is taken in, there is that movement, ever so subtle, yet returning again and again and again. And for the next few breaths, my invitation to you is a gentle, consistent letting go. Perhaps with every exhale, there's a space within your physical body that can release just a bit more. Release of the shoulders, softening of the belly. Relaxing of the glutes. Release of any constriction in the calf muscles. Ease into the feet. And notice too how the breath allows you to arrive in the present moment. The breath doesn't happen in the future. The breath doesn't happen in the past. It is right here now. So that as the mind wanders and time travels forward or backwards, dwelling on what is perhaps going to happen next or what has already happened on this day, that when you notice it does that, you can actually gently catch it by returning to your breath. The breath then is that grounding practice that brings you here now. I encourage all of you to bring your conscious awareness within the space of the heart. Perhaps even feeling into your heartbeat. And as you do so, inviting this question and posing it to the heart, not to the head, but posing this question to the heart. What is one way that I might open myself up to be more grounded, starting right now? Simply observing what arises for you as you breathe and hold this question. What is one way that I may open myself up to be more grounded, starting now? Notice any shifts that may already be happening, any subtle changes in the body, in the breath, in the spirit, in the mind. What is one way that I may open myself up to be more grounded, starting now? If your mind is attempting to deliver a to-do list, create more work or more effort for you, you can lovingly tell it to take a seat and tap into the powerful truth that by simply asking this question of your heart, you have already received. That the support available for this groundedness is available to you and on its way. That by simply creating space for yourself in this moment, for choosing to show up for you, that you're already in deep alignment with that grounding energy. And so with whatever came up for you, for the next few breaths, I invite you to consider whatever came up for you as an intention. My favorite definition of intention is the quality of consciousness that we bring to a situation. So see grounded energy, grounded being, planted like a seed within the space of the heart. Affirming that with every breath taken from this moment forward, that seed, that intention will organically be nourished, nurtured, and given the prime conditions for it to grow. So there is really nothing for you to do. It's simply a commitment to being. Just breathe into that for the next few moments on your own. Notice how you feel. Encourage everyone to take the biggest breath of the day right here. And open mouth release. Deep belly breath in, expanding into the lungs as well. And exhale to release something that doesn't serve you. One more. Deep, full breath in, imagining this breath nourishing that seed, nourishing that intention. And let it go. Bring your palms together at the space of the heart. Just a brief moment of gratitude. Gratitude to whatever was revealed to you. Meditation is so powerful because it's really the practice of seeing things as they really are. That's all it is. You're witnessing yourself in all of you and cultivating as much compassion around everything that arises. When you're ready, I encourage you to open up your eyes. It's in my practice to always jot down, even if it's just one sentence or one word, a revelation that came up for me, no matter how profound or simple. I find it all to be the same, honestly. Thank you again for having me. And I know some of you will be joining me and my colleague Melissa tomorrow for our Self-Care Saturday event. Have a beautiful rest of your experience today.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for that grounding moment. Very powerful. And I hope that all of you have found moments to expand and ground yourself today. Please plan to join us and Black Girl in Ohm tomorrow, right here on this platform, for a special session of self-care and meditation from noon to 1 Central Time. Now, we have a final poll question for the day, so take out your smartphones and head to www.sly.do and enter in #ANewDay at the top of the screen to answer this question. What's one word that comes to mind as you reflect on your time with us today? I love it. Focused. Rejuvenated. Courage. I love it. Inspired. This is awesome. Okay, so empowering, hopeful. Work to do, I see. Absolutely. And calm. So keep sharing with us more in the chat or on social media using the hashtag WFMN Equity Summit 21. Let's keep this conversation going. We know we must dream and we know we must act, staying grounded in all that is required of us, all the ways which we must stretch and expand if we are to realize a transformed world. In the weekend ahead, may you continue to feel the beauty of this moment, the possibility that exists within the times that we're living in. The progress is real, and so is the distance we still must go. As I said, we've been here before. The call for justice is not new. We exist within the fabric of community. We follow the lead of community, and we amplify the voices of community partners, organizational leaders, youth, girls, gender-expansive youth, women. We're lifting up this call for justice with our founding mothers of the foundation, our past leadership, and the leaders all around us today. So thank you for joining us in this work and on this journey. I'm so grateful for your partnership to drive community-centered leadership and innovation for gender and racial equity in Minnesota.